Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of the Skeptic Show. On this episode of the Skeptic Show, I had the pleasure of talking to Harris Sultan. Harris is an atheist and is known for his critique of religion. He's the author of the book The Curse of God: Why I Left Islam. This book is recommended by Richard Dawkins. He also talks about religion and atheism and social issue on YouTube. His videos on YouTube have been viewed over 22 million times. In this episode, we talked about the definition of atheism and the problems of religion. We talked about morality without God. We talked about how to find meaning and purpose in a godless universe. We talked about religious reform and the best way to criticize religion. We also talked about the blasphemy law and how to fight them. And at the end, we talked about the mainstream media and the hypocrisy of the left and the right-wing media portals. I hope you like this episode, and if you do like this episode, leave a comment and subscribe on YouTube, and also don't forget to follow us on Spotify. The episode with Harris begins in 3, 2, 1. I wanted to start this conversation with defining the concept because most of the atheists that I've come across, they're like 50-50. Some of the atheists are like 100% that there is no God, and some of them are about negation of belief. So what exactly is atheism?
Well, I think it's all of it. Funny that you asked that question because I'm thinking about writing my next book would be Atheism for Dummies, but I was thinking that maybe dummies actually might be taken. So I was thinking maybe I should write in my style Atheism for Idiots, but then I thought maybe it's just too much. But basically what atheism is, because I think in this day and age, no one needs to, there is no excuse not to know anything. Like anything, if you want to understand, fair enough, we all need some clarity, we all need some help from other people, so that's fair enough. But there are people who go out of their way and then they deliberately strawman someone's position. For example, people come up with arguments like atheism is negation. Yes, that's fine, you can call it a negation, there's nothing wrong with that. Like you could be negating the stork theory. Like babies are delivered by storks, so that's a negation. So negation necessarily doesn't mean anything bad. You negate the Earth is flat theory. So there's nothing wrong in negating. So atheism is very simple. Atheism says that there is no. You make a claim that there is a God. I'm sorry, there is no evidence. I don't think there is any God, because when we look at the natural world around us, we see that there are natural explanations for materialistic things happening. We understand, or scientists understand, or they explain to us how the universe came into being, how planets form, how mountains form, how rain happens, and how do we get rainbows, etc. There is no for example, the theory of evolution explains the diversity of life on our planet. So scientists explain that to us through natural processes. The more you understand these natural processes, the less you rely on mythical stories like God created human beings with his hands from clay. What is that? So you don't need that anymore. So God's at the gaps, basically. For a very long time, they've been relying, and science is all about filling those gaps. So if you want to say atheism is negation of that belief, I've got no problem with that definition. Yeah, it is a negation of a God theory or hypothesis, basically. God, it's not even a theory in scientific terms. It's a God hypothesis, and it's a negation of that hypothesis. So yeah, and I would also add that atheism itself, there's no emotional part in that. It's just I could be an atheist about I'm only atheist about God's point of view, but everything else, atheism doesn't even matter. I mean, which sports team I follow, what legal system should I support? Atheism has nothing to do with that. It's got to do with other ideas that we have, such as you believe in freedom of speech, you believe in humanism, you believe in supremacy of the parliament or democracy and vigorous debates, etc. That's got nothing to do with atheism.
Why do we need atheism? What are the problems in religion, the inherent problem in religion that atheism is trying to solve?
Well, atheism cannot solve every problem out there, because atheists can be flat earthers, atheists can be vaccine deniers, as we've seen now. Atheists, not atheism. As I said, atheism is just that. I'm sorry, I'm not convinced that there is a
Yeah.
God. I'm sorry, I'm not convinced. That's it. Everything else comes from other sources. Although you could argue that for a person to leave his religion behind and to become an atheist, that requires a certain mental faculties, for example, being skeptic in nature, for example, seeking evidence. So those skills that you learn, you apply them in other places. But as I said, sometimes people become overly skeptic as well, and they start denying vaccines, and they start creating conspiracy theories because they don't want to believe in anything. In terms of what does atheism achieve, I mean, this is what atheism's sole point. It simply says there is no God. This is why I don't understand anything beyond that. It doesn't come from atheism.
For a very long time, morality and ethics were sort of taken care by religion. And whenever I have this conversation with my friends, mostly religious friends, they always come up with this argument that if there is no God, no judgment, no heaven or hell, no rebirth, then why should they be good? Why should they be moral?
Well, because we have created societies, and that's why we've created a legal system. Why you should be good? Well, because you don't want to go to prison, do you? So, and funny thing is, and I discussed that in detail in my book, that the fear of God, or the fear of hell, or retribution, or judgment and punishment, that doesn't stop people from committing these crimes. It doesn't. And in fact, the more you look into these more godly people, the more they commit these crimes. You look at these Molvis, you look at these Padris, and I've seen some of the Pandits that have been involved in Mandirs as well. So the more you look into it, the more you realize, but they are closest to their God. Why are they doing that? I'm not saying the religion is making them do this. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that religion is at least not stopping them from doing that. There was a detailed study that I showed, which is a bit old study in my book. I think it was from 2004 or something, which said that at that point, there were only 5% atheists in America at that point. But the US prison population only made 1% of atheists. Why was there disparity? Why were they not equally distributed in that? Why was there disproportionate representation of religious people in there? So again, I'm not saying that religion is making them do these things. What I'm saying, that religion is not stopping them. So you look at in our third world countries. What's the difference between third world countries and first world countries? If you compare that with Norway, for example, even their prison,
people
even
in
their
third,
prison,
please go on.
even their prison sentences are very lenient, but still they're less likely to commit crimes. For example, people in Japan and Singapore. Why? Because their law and order system is better. And in third world countries where people are more religious, they're still committing those crimes. Dudwala is doing that. Your average shopkeeper, Perchunwala, is doing that. Everyone is corrupt. Your lineman, everyone, your electricity department, water department, everyone is trying to scam you. So why is it? Again, the answer is very simple. It's law and order. So the conclusion is the law and order made by men, implemented by men or humans, they're the ones that stop, that improve people's behavior, moral actions. If you and I all of a sudden, if there is no law and order, if the law and order breaks down, and in any country you could do that. We've seen that in America when there's Black Lives Matter, George Floyd things happen. In England, it happened in New Year's Day few years ago. There were mass looting, and you can do that in India and Pakistan as well. If there's no police, we have less police, and we already know the kind of crimes that we experience. So it's going to get worse.
Yeah, in India, it's like ratio is 400 or 500 to 1. It's really bad.
So that's why it's going to get worse. And if you remove the police, I challenge this to people, that you go out there and run a society without any law enforcement agencies. You wouldn't last. That society would not last. But you go out there and run a society without religion. There are plenty of societies running without religion. The secular societies, basically on principle, are without religion. Countries like the Scandinavian countries, now majority of people are atheists in those countries. They're running fine. But even countries like Norway or Finland or those countries as well, if you take away the police, no, chaos will happen. So if you want to get your morals come from a collective conscience, collective thought process. We say, okay, we want to run a society, so we want to protect our weak. We're going to look after our disabled. We're going to protect our children. We're going to protect our vulnerable people, war veterans, and we're going to protect our women who can't look after themselves. We're going to give them equal rights, etc. This is a complicated process. All of that has come from human brain, not from a book that was written 1400 years ago, 2000 years ago. Not from that. Ask the Quran, what should a woman's role be in a society? It will tell you that, they should stay at home, make babies. Ask that in Bhagavad Gita or whatever. The Purana is horrible when it comes to women's rights. And you ask with Bible doesn't say anything about what a woman's role should be in a modern world, because they can't even conceive what a modern world would be. So you tell those friends this thought experiment. Try to run the world without law and order, but try to run a world without religion. Without religion, countries or societies are fine.
And I also don't understand this argument. The only reason you are not killing me because you fear God does not make you a good human being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's a very good point. That's not good then. That's just basically fear. To some extent, that could be the reason, because we are creatures of habit. So let's just say you and I get into a very heated debate and some really nasty things are said. Let's just say you say something nasty about my daughter. I don't have any. Or I say something very bad about your family. And in that moment, you're not thinking rationally now, yeah? You're angry now, and you just hit me a punch. And I hit the ground, my head hits the curb, and I die. At that point, later on, you might show regret. But again, these things happen. So the only reason at that point, the fear of God is not going to be stopping you, because I've been in a situation where I'm thinking, okay, this can escalate into a fight. Should I get involved in a fight or not? The only fear is, and not getting punched in my face is what's holding me back. What's holding me back is that what if he punches me, I punch him. What if it escalates? He gets hurt, he gets injured, then I'm going to be arrested. That's the fear. When you're driving a car and someone is a road rage incident, even though you've got a bull bar at your car, the front of your car, you can ram your car into that person who's annoying you. But why don't you do it? You don't do it at that moment thinking about, oh, Allah is going to put me in hell. You don't do it because of the fear of law and order. So fear is a good thing. The sense of, we're gonna be asked. But if I'm in an island where there's no law and order, no police, I have a weaker person with me, and I'm there, and we find one fish. It's only one fish, that we can eat. I would use my power. I would push him away, and I would eat that. We do these things. So there are stages when human instincts, because there's survivability that does that. I would like to think I'm not going to be like that. I would like to think that we will share that. But again, you can't say that. Religion tells you fairy tales. Religion tells you, yes. How many times you've seen a person returns a briefcase full of cash? If he's a Muslim, he says, oh, this is because Islam taught us that. Hang on. But what about that Muslim guy who raped a child? Did Islam teach you that? No, that was just his action. So people can be good as well. People can return bags full of cash thinking that, this is going to help this person. So all these things happen. It's just religion romanticizes these things. And yes, most likely, if I'm walking down the road, I'm not going to go out of my way to just, if my belly is full, I'm not going to go and steal an orange from someone. But if my kids are starving, who knows? But then again, I would be worried about the policeman rather than the God up there. You're on mute.
Yeah. Can religions be deformed? Because there are a lot of problems, and obviously you brought up Quran and Quran. I have read some of Quran, and it's horrible. Some of the verses are just horrible. Even the Manusmriti. the kind
Yeah,
of women.
Manusmriti, sorry, not
Yeah, yeah.
Purana. Sorry, I meant Manusmriti. Yeah, Manusmriti is the worst one when it comes to women, and I've discussed that with other people, and they always say, "Well, the translation issue." I was just literally talking to a friend of mine who is a Shia Muslim, and he was just every reference I was showing him, he was saying, "No, no, no, this is fake translation." I was like, "What do you do with these people?" So they hide behind translations, and then if it's that bad, then it is that bad. But yeah, go on. You tell
Yeah,
me about what's written in Manusmriti.
yeah, I call it the truth translation fallacy. And even if you show them the translation of the believer, they'll say, no, 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 that's not wrong. Somebody then, some padri or some priest inflated the books and they brought up some new ideas and messed up. So they always say that. But do you think that the religions can be deformed? Because most of the Muslims aren't stoning homosexual to death. Most of the Hindus today don't believe in oppressive caste system. Most of the Christians are not killing homosexual.
Mm.
So can religion be reformed? Because they are reformed
I
all the
think
time.
relig-
Yeah.
I think religions have reformed throughout human history, but it's like that. It's basically kind of like radiotherapy for cancer. Unfortunately, we don't have any solution to get rid of cancer completely. That's why we just try to minimize cancer by radiotherapy. Yeah, but if we had the cure for it, people say that when we do discover cure for cancer, we would look back and we would say, "Oh, this was a horrible treatment," because when you do radiotherapy, it also kills your good cells. So people most likely, sometimes people die not because of cancer, but of radiation. And then cancer always ends up coming back and they're called, you've gone into remission. So religions are like cancer. If we have now the ability to get rid of it altogether, why minimize it? So why rely on these books? Like someone was telling me, like in my video, like, I mean, a lot of Hindus come to my channel because they share the hatred for Islam. They think that I'd be attracted to that. They tell me like, read Gita. I'm like, okay, I don't know about these Bhagavad Gita. I don't know much about them. I've seen some excerpts here and there. I haven't read that in detail. But again, let's just say everything is good in there. Why do I need it? I don't look to Aristotle's philosophy about humanism to work out my humanism. There is so much better has since been said about that, and we've come up with way better worldviews than our ancient people could come up with. So why do I need Bhagavad Gita? Why do I need these ancient religious? Why? Just tell me something. What do I need from that? I don't need anything. Is there anything in Bhagavad Gita that a modern human mind can't come up with? Is there anything? I would like to know. I don't think there is. If anything, there are far worse things written about women in Bhagavad Gita. So my point is, why even try to reform these relics of the past? Why even try to save them? As I said, if we could remove cancer altogether, we would. But we could not get rid of cancer. So that's why we came up with radiotherapy. So it kills good cells with it. So that's why we could not get rid of religion altogether. That's why we kept reforming it. Yes, child marriages back in those days. Yeah, women back in those days. Homosexuals, no, they're still, why? Yes, Islam is reforming right now. People are becoming, in 20 years' time, there would be more people would be acceptable towards homosexuals in the Muslim world than they are today. And today, there are more people who are accepting towards homosexual than, let's say, 30 years ago. So there is constantly, people are getting better. But again, why have this? Because we're still having the debate whether women should be allowed to work, or they should stay at home, whether they should wear these clothes or not. Why? In the Muslim world I'm talking about. It's purely because I actually covered a news story where this Hindu girl was beaten to death by her grandfather. She was, I think, 15 years old because she was wearing jeans. It was, I know it. And then they found her body hanging by a bridge or something. I covered that news story. Why? Okay. They might argue, well, there's nothing it says in Bhagavad Gita or Vedas that this is what you should do. But again, it comes from patriarchal worldview. It comes from the point of view of honor culture. Women, bad dhodho ke piyo, like women should wash their feet and drink that water. That's written in Manusmriti, I think. So why have that? There is no need for reformation. Yes, I do understand that we can't get rid of religion altogether, but I will not take part in the reform movement. I will I will go for the jugular. I'll keep telling, and we've had a lot of success. There are a lot of atheists are growing at the fastest rate. There was a National Geographic survey done a while ago. The fastest growing religion in the world is no religion. And that's true. And people are becoming atheists all across the board. Initially, people used to think that's only happening in the Western world. No, in the Muslim world, it's happening. Surveys after surveys, people are becoming less religious and they are becoming atheists.
Yeah, and people only need to read their scripture. They should just read their scripture. They should read Manusmriti. They should read Quran and Bible. But I have just one question regarding this. If we are not supporting, we can have our argument that we need to get rid of religion altogether. But if we are not supporting reformists, because reformists are getting trashed from both direction, from the atheist and from the fundamentalist. So don't you think that we need to support them? And I know that they are coming with wrong interpretation. Some they are doing some mental gymnastic and some coming up with their own interpretation, which is not even true. But
I've
don't
said
you
it.
think, yeah, strategically it
I've,
would be, yeah, please go ahead.
No, I think we can coexist independently without supporting each other or without scratching each other's backs. The only thing I would say is reformists and what we find in common is the fact that they're not coming to murder us. And we're not going to murder them either. Well, we're not going to murder anyone. So our narrative is obviously opposite. So we are allies in a way, for example, but I can't say that, okay, that how else can we support them? We can't support them. How can we support them? I mean, obviously there would be an intellectual, there'd be argumentative differences between us and them. So they're saying that, well, this is the real Quran. I'm saying, sorry, that's not. And they're not agreeing with us. And then we go our merry ways. There is what else can we do? There is that is the support, I would say. So the good thing is that they don't want to kill us, we don't want to kill them. So that's how it works. That's how discourse works.
Yeah, do you think that still with all the quirk and all the problem, there is some value in religion and myth, because human being need explanation and some common myth?
No, I don't think we need we don't need religion, because I understand we need fiction, but fiction is only good when it's proven to be fiction. But I was so obsessed with Lord of the Rings. I actually started Googling when the movies came out in 2001 or 2. I think it used to be Alta Vista, MSN, Yahoo Messengers back, the search engines back then. Like, is there a Middle Earth? Because I love the characters of hobbits, and because I wanted to believe in that. I was like, this is cool. Is this like the ancient world? People confused Game of Thrones. People were like, okay, is that inspired on true stories or whatever? People want that. People like that imagination. But as long as that imagination sticks to imagination and fiction, that's good. But unfortunately, religion might have started off as a myth, a story, a feel-good story or whatever, a basic attempt to explaining how the universe started and the Great Flood from Epic of Gilgamesh, etc., stolen from there, blah, blah, and then it transcended into Bible and the Quran, etc. But it might have started from these stories, but they've run its course. They run their course. There's nothing left now. We don't need the Quranic stories that we have separated heaven and earth to create, and that's how the universe started. We don't need that, because we know that Earth didn't exist 14 billion years ago. We don't need these stories. We don't need the story of Noah's flood. We don't need to say that mountains are like pegs and they've been installed from the skies, and they have been hammered down into the earth just to keep the balance of Earth. We don't need to know this. So we need to put that in the dustbin, and the sooner we do it, the better it is.
Yeah, but I want to ask you this question personally, because how do we criticize religion? Can we just go about mocking gods and prophet, or criticize it verse by verse? What is the best and the most productive way to criticize religion?
Well, you bring your own personality into it. So obviously there would always be certain parts that you know more about. There's certain parts that you are more passionate about. for example, if you're passionate about the human rights part of it, if you're studying in sciences and you're going deeper and deeper into some scientific discipline, then obviously that would be one way of explaining that. However way you do it, you have to find your own niche. Or you could be like me, like a jack of all trades, master of none. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a biologist, but I will give you basic level of evolution. But if you ask anything more, then I might not know anything about it. What is the current debate in the world of evolution or in the field of astronomy? I don't know that. I get my science or my arguments from the popular scientists who tell us what evolution is or what astronomy is, and then we go from there. The other thing, then I look into Islamic scholars and I look at what the verses are saying, and then I adopt their interpretation. They're saying, okay, you can divorce prepubescent girls. It means you can marry prepubescent girls. So I'm just saying that, sorry, this is your interpretation and this is horrible. So sometimes we can go too far. Sometimes we just keep a bit reserved. That again, this is your personality, how you, I think you find your own way. People start in all shapes and all ways, every possible way that you're comfortable with, and then you find your own way and you find your own niche, and then your audience. I think if you're genuine and original, I think people will listen to you. People will like you. Don't hold back. Don't try to be something. I look at my older videos when I decided that I'm going to be very serious. Okay, I'm going to sit down like that and I'm going to talk about it. I'm not going to make any jokes, and I'm going to understand the sensibilities of people. No, screw their sensibilities. These guys are literally saying that they want to behead me, and I have to care about the sensibilities. No, screw that. I'm gonna talk about what the prophet did. So he beheaded 700 Jews in a single day, according to their own sources. So this is a horrible act. He married a 9-year-old girl. That's a horrible act. He instructed people to kill those who blasphemed against him. Nadar ibn Harid, Asma bint Marwan, etc. He did all these things. So we're going to talk about it. He told a man to when he asked in the Battle of Uhud that, "Oh Lord, oh Messenger of Allah, what makes Allah so happy?" He said, "A person who jumps in the battlefield without body armor." So he took off his body armor and put it in the feet of Muhammad, and then he jumped in the battlefield, and the idiot died. And then you know what Muhammad did? Muhammad was already wearing a body armor, and then he wore 2 body armors, and then he jumped in the battlefield. It's written in their own books. I didn't think of that. So it is a funny story. So I'm going to say that to you because Muslims don't know about that. So I don't have to care about their sensibilities. You know why? Because I came to this conclusion a long time ago. If a jihadi finds out about me, well, I'll take care of one of them. But if they plan an attack on me, they're not going to not attack on me because, Harris took care of our sensibilities. They're still going to come after me, and if they could, I will make sure that they can't. But if they could, they would do it. And so why don't I have a bit of fun with that as well? And I still haven't crossed all boundaries. Like I don't show cartoons of Muhammad, and I don't show cartoons of Hindu deities. Which again, I was shocked when I saw that Kali Mata and Amin Nawabi saga. I said, "Whoa, Hindus can be real butthurt as well." So I haven't gone into it, but yeah, try me. If they push me, then I might have to and with Anika Atiq, who's been recently sentenced to death for blasphemy. We will plan that, and I will make a detailed video on that, and I will tell them we'll stage some protests in front of Pakistani embassies. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to show cartoons of Muhammad in front of the Pakistani embassies. Let's see what they can do in Canberra, in Sydney, in London, in Washington. We're going to do that. What are they going to do then? Are they going to come out of the embassies and try to shoot us? They can't do that. They can't do that. So, if they don't get their act together, if they don't start acting like adults, if they don't start valuing human life, then, we can be a bit more aggressive in our stance as well. But again, as I said, if it comes naturally to you, fair enough. You're a firebrand atheist, you're a firebrand blasphemer, you like to poke them. Fine, but if it's not your thing, then don't do it. Like, for example, as I said, initially when I was like, I'm going to be serious, and I look at that and I'm like, well, who are you trying to fool, Harris? That's not you.
I think I will be serious because I live in India. Recently, a man was killed for blasphemy. A month ago, a person was killed for sacrilege, and Munawar Faruqi was cancelled because he made a joke on Hindu deities, and which I think the jokes were funny. They were really, really funny jokes. So, what are your
Yeah,
thoughts on the blasphemy law? Because even the leaders in this country, even the leaders in India, when that Sikh guy was killed, when that Dalit was killed, they weren't like, "Oh, you should not kill some human being." They were saying that I condemn this sacrilege act. That is the
yeah.
caliber of leaders in India. So, how do we
But not
solve
only
this?
just,
Yeah,
but not only, sorry, but I think I got your question. But not only just that. If you look at Navjot Singh Sidhu, he was saying, "Paila doine." Yes, he was
yeah,
saying that hang them in public if they make fun of our religion. So this is Navjot Singh Sidhu saying that, and we made a video on that, and I think we got a decent coverage on that. And shame on Navjot Singh Sidhu to say that. And we've seen a lot of we see Hindu. I think Yogi Adityanath has said it. Yati Narsingh Anand has said it. I know the two different calibers. Like one is a CM and the other one isn't. Yogi Adityanath is a firebrand Hindu nationalist, radical Hindu. And some people say he might be the next prime minister. And we can see the trajectory which India is going. And then every time I point this out to these Sunnis, as I like to call them, they say, "Oh, we're only reacting." Where would this reaction end? Because you keep poking the bear. Because again, human rights, yeah, crap on Islam all you want. This is what we do. But you have to be able to differentiate between people and ideas. You have to be able, not every Nazi was killed. You know why? Because they were a product of the crime. They were also victims of Nazis. Yeah, the senior leaders were. But it's the Nazism that was the problem. And Adolf Hitler and his founding fathers were the problem. So many Nazis who were the foot soldiers, they were released because they were like, yeah, well, we can't hang everyone. So same thing. And this is a bad analogy because Muslims don't even know Islam. Pretty much Nazism was contemporary to the people who believed in that at that time. So they knew what Hitler and Nazism stood for. Muslims don't even know. You know this chapter 65 verse 4 that I was talking about? Like I was just arguing with a friend of mine. He was arguing. He's like, I'm a scholar. And he did not know about this verse. Then he started rejecting this translation. It says that you can divorce prepubescent girls. So it means you can marry them. Otherwise, you can't divorce them. But a majority of Muslims don't know that. But then these radical Hindus, they say, oh, I read that Quranic verse. So Muslims believe in child marriages. Yes, there are a lot of them who do believe it, but not everyone believes in that. So when you put them, lump them together as one, they're going to fire back. And guess what? It becomes more problematic. It becomes, and I give that example. I don't know if I could share my screen. Let me share that screen with you. This is an Indian ex-Muslim, or actually Indian Muslim, and he's been watching me and following me for a very long time, and I always talk to him. Sorry, how do I share screen in Zoom? Can I do this? Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. Oh, host disabled participant. Okay.
Yeah, I'll make you host.
Okay, so I'll just share this screen with you, and look how damaging it is when you demonize Muslims. Yes, attack Islam. Islam is an idea. Islam an ideology. You can attack Islam. You can, just the same way we attack Hinduism, you can attack Christianity. That's fine, but you can't encroach on human rights of people. So when you attack Muslims, like, oh, love jihad karte hain ye, oh, ye jihadi hain sare. When you say those kind of things, then of course they will feel threatened. They will feel defensive, and they will create a stronger community because they will think that they have to stick together in order to fight off their much stronger and bigger adversary. So have a look at this one. So this guy, he goes, 2 of my friends have become ex-Muslims after I showed them your videos. I said, LOL, really? When will you become one? So he said, oh yes, 1 boy, 1 girl. They're like, hamare saath to game ho gaya. And then he said, I am just hanging on to edge. Culturally and politically, I'm a Muslim, but religiously, I'm done. What does that mean? Why is this guy holding on to the Muslim identity? You know why? Because he thinks that he is threatened. He thinks that Hindutva is on the rise. His mothers, his parents, his close friends and family who happen to be Muslim, they are being attacked by them. So don't do this. Don't try to tell us ghar wapsi. Like they give us this option, ghar wapsi kar lo. What do you mean ghar wapsi kar lo? So I have to become a tunni with you. I have to become a temple worshipping Hindu in order for me to be accepted by you. You know what? I don't need to be accepted by you. So I am a modern 21st century human being. My morality comes from rigorous debate concerning the topics in the 21st century. I don't need a Gita. I don't need the Quran. I don't need the Bible. These ancient pagans or these ancient goat herders who didn't even know that the sun doesn't go around the earth goes around the sun. They didn't even know that. So I need to get my morality from those people? No, I don't want to get my morality from those people. And this is why I say, so it's very important that radical Hindus people need to stay away from. And this is why we've seen this rise of it. There's another group of ex-Muslims as well who are growing from India. And we can see that they're becoming Tunnis, basically. They defend the cow lynchings over cow eating cow meat, etc. Tufel Chaturvedi said, "Agar koi gai ko katega to main usko kaat dunga." I mean, what is that nonsense? Yes, I get it. I tried my best to be a vegan. A couple of times I tried, and then I failed. And then I don't eat beef. I only eat chicken. Again, I see the arguments. I see that we need to be compassionate towards. Sorry, I think this has just gone out of focus. Yeah. So we need to be compassionate towards the animals. We need to reduce suffering or whatever, but we cannot put a cow's life above a human's life. Yeah. You can't say that if I eat beef, then you're going to kill me. You're going to cut me up just the same way I cut up a cow. So it's like a false dichotomy. They say either this or that. There's no other way. So sorry. I think it's very important that we need to steer clear of, and again, this is a reason why a lot of people who become ex-Muslims, they end up becoming atheists. They don't go to Christianity. Some do. And very few become Hindus as well. Very few. I only know Farhan Qureshi and that Kalidasi woman. I don't know of many, even these so-called Tunni ex-Muslims, even they are not Hindus. They don't call themselves Hindus. Maybe they don't call themselves Hindus strategically because they don't want to be seen as charlatans or sellouts. But majority become atheists. And that is a sensible approach. If you can see the ridiculousness in Muhammad's flying donkey, then you can see that in flying Hanuman, flying monkey as well. You can see the same problem. It's the same problem. The Brahma breathed it out, and that's how the universe came into existence. Yeah, get out of here. Don't waste my time.
Yeah. My question is that religion for a very long time used to give people meaning and purpose, but now that we have taken out God, we have killed God, how do we find meaning and purpose? Because there's a meaning crisis going everywhere. In America, they are having a meaning crisis. So how do we find meaning?
Are people losing? Is there really a meaning crisis? Because if that's the case, why are people living the longest and wanting to live the longest? Why are people trying to live longer? Why would these people not embrace death? Because it's time for me to go. Because if life is long, then inevitably it's going to be a bit more boring. The reason my life is exciting is because I know that I've got 30 more years left and I need to enjoy my life. I need to do something. I've got 30 years left, maybe 40, or at least the last 10 years of my life, my brain might not be working, my legs might not be working, whatever. I'm 38, so what 30 means 68, 70. By the time I'm 70, I'm pretty much done, unless medical science comes up with something. So I'm not having meaning crisis. And like everything else, human life itself, as I said, people don't understand. Life revolves around one thing, and that is a desire to survive. You don't see a gazelle jumping off a cliff and committing suicide. Every time a gazelle or a goat or a monkey, any animal that sees a threat to its survival, to its well-being, it runs away. It tries to run away from a lion. The reason is because this is the ingrained property of a living organism that you want to live, even subconsciously. These viruses are they're not thinking that, okay, we need to mutate to something else to beat the vaccine. No, it's just happening naturally because it's innate in us. Because if it didn't exist in us, then we would have all gone extinct. We would have been careless walking around snakes. We would have been careless walking around the cliff edges. We would have like, oh yeah, that's a 100-foot kai, this 100-foot sheer drop. Oh, okay. Oops, oh, I'm dead. We would be careless, but we're not. We look at a snake. When we're walking through a jungle, we see a stick that resembles a snake. We can see that. There's a very good hypothesis called snake detection hypothesis, where it shows that we actually evolved, our vision improved so much, not because we wanted to see lions, because lions are in the savannah, they are very well camouflaged in the tall grasslands of Africa. But all the great apes, except for one particular ape, kind of forgot. They don't have good vision like us. We have good vision because we wanted to detect snakes. And if you showed them random photos of blurry images of lions, drawings of lions, tigers, and snakes, you will first recognize the snakes. So all of that, my point is, it relies on our survivability. So human beings are resilient just like any other animal. Animals have been doing the same thing. They're dying, they're running away from a lion, and then they die. They eventually end up dying. And they get older and they're weaker, the body starts breaking down. And same thing with us. Yes, the only difference is we're complicated. Our brain is complex. A mind of a gazelle cannot think about mathematics or look at the night sky and say, I wonder what's happening on those stars. They can't think that. So because we can think that, that's why we ask these questions that were not intended to be solved by an organic brain, for example. We were not meant, we were meant to run away from lions and avoid snakes. That was the main purpose. But then the brain kept getting bigger and bigger, and that's a remarkable accident of evolution that it happened. So now we ask complex questions. Why do we write? Why do we draw these paintings? I mean, what joy does that bring? Okay, that's at least in my face, so fair enough. But if you saw a landscape, some abstract art, why do we do this? We feed our mind, which has this constant desire to think about things that we don't normally think about. Because as I said, the normal thinking method is there a snake coming from that hallway? Is there a lion that's going to break down the door and going to eat me? That would have been the main purpose. And now, can I climb up the tree? So meaning, we keep finding new meanings. Our brains are complex. We keep finding new meanings. I definitely enjoy my life more that I'm doing this work. This is my new meaning. I love it when I get these letters from people. I sleep like a baby every day. I sleep for 7-8 hours. I enjoy my life. I watch sports. I watch movies, and life is great. I travel a lot. Life is great. So you find new meanings. You ask a doctor. I interviewed a doctor a couple of days ago. She's an ex-Muslim woman, and she's a doctor. Wonderful life, having great life, new meanings. She said she finds so much joy in helping out her patients. And so we find that. What we do talk about, I think what people confuse that with, is the rise of depression. And I'll give you an example. This is another misnomer or misunderstanding, because in the olden days, we now recognize mental health. There's a stigma associated with mental health. We have done so well to tell people that if you are feeling depressed, there's nothing wrong with that. You're not crazy. I wonder where that stigma come from. Where has that stigma come from? I'll tell you where that come from. It's because you're not focused on religion. That's why you are feeling so down and sad. Maybe you should pray, go to temple, pray, Allah se pray karo. Namaz padhoge to you will be okay. Shaitan aa gaya. That's where the stigmas come from. And you start thinking, I'm crazy, maybe I'm stupid. Yes, I need to study more. And then if it gets worse, then they get the Babaji will come and beat you with sticks to get the jinn out of you. So that's where the stigmas come from. So we've always had depression. we know that even animals get depressed. My dog gets depressed when, when his friends go away, like the other two big dogs. When they go away, my dog gets depressed. It is a misfiring. And now we know it's just simple hormones that can be manipulated with antidepressant drugs. Antidepressant drugs can make you feel better. Like all of a sudden you're feeling down, you have this intake of a drug, and then you start feeling, okay, maybe I shouldn't kill myself now. So these things, and obviously, if you're feeling down, there is nothing embarrassing about that. There's nothing, it doesn't mean that you're crazy or stupid. It's just like any other illness. And you can go to a doctor, you can get help, and you would be fine. So they confuse that because in the Western world, they recognize it. They're getting better at recognizing it. So because they recognize it, people think that, somehow depression has increased. No, it hasn't increased. It's always been there. People have always gotten depressed. People have always been committing suicide due to despair and prolonged sadness. But there was no solution. They thought there was something wrong with them. So why khudkushi is haram? Why every religion has spoken against suicide? Because people were committing suicides back then. Can you imagine why anyone would be forced to committing suicide? I can't kill myself no matter how down I am, because I'm not down at that level. But it means people used to get depression as well back in the day, in the Roman times and in other times. People used to get depressed and they would kill themselves. So people have been always getting depressed. So it's not a crisis of faith, crisis of meaning. It's a mental illness that has always been there, and we've just gotten better at recognizing it.
एंड मैं आपसे ये भी जानना चाहता हूँ कि मैंने अभी ये सब स्टार्ट करा है रिलीजन के में थोड़ा डीप जाने का और एथीज्म में थोड़ा डीप जाने का, और इंडिया में ये जो पोलराइजेशन इतना ज़्यादा बढ़ते जा रहा है, तो हम इंडिविजुअली इसको कैसे फाइट कर सकते हैं? ये ब्लास्फेमी लॉ और ये जो थ्रेट आते रहते हैं उसको कैसे इंडिविजुअली हम फाइट कर सकते हैं और अपने पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू को आगे भी रख सकें?
Sorry, I didn't understand your meaning. So basically you're saying that how individually we can fight against these religious propaganda?
Yeah, and
well,
blasphemy law.
Well, blasphemy law is a step that is a very difficult one to take. So it's not going to be, we cannot expect, especially definitely not in Pakistan, but maybe not even in India, because it looks like the future Indian Hindu nationalist governments are going to use them for their Hindutva agenda. So the only reason, the only way you can fight against is through advocacy, meaning speaking about it, speaking against it. But again, not at the cost of your life. Okay, you need to be careful. You need to be, because you said you live in India, so maybe you don't need to be too, strident in your approach, or you don't need to be too provocative in your approach. If you academically keep talking about it, like what's this guy's Kishan, what's his name? A couple of days ago, this guy was murdered because he shared a cartoon of Muhammad. Not even a bad cartoon of Muhammad. It was just an innocent. He said Jesus, Muhammad, and now the real original gangster walks in, Krishna. So that it was just a harmless video. Like every religious person brags about their own religion, and he stayed at his home, I think 4 or 5 days, and then he got out of his house, and they shot him. So you can't take the risk. No, nothing can come at the peril of your life. Yes, we do say that you're, when the bigger your mission, the better your legacy. Again, what good is a legacy? I mean, if I get shot tomorrow, yes, I've had great fun in the last 4 years or so, but if I get killed tomorrow, when I'm dying, myself that question, was it worth it? So I don't know the answer to that question at that point, but this is why I want to make sure that I don't get killed. I live for another 30 years or so, and then I'm going to enjoy my life. So that's why I'm not reckless. People might think that, you're being reckless. So my advice to everyone is don't be reckless. You don't have to try to convince everyone or try to deconvert people in your vicinity. You don't need to go talk to your friend and, get in an argument and then something might happen. You don't need to do any of that. Know your limits, stay in your, protect yourself first of all, and then talk about it. So for example, I am in such a brilliant position that I live in a safe country where this country would never hunt me down. If there are lone warriors or whatever, it's going to be very difficult for them to get through to me. So, and I travel a lot. So, like 4 or 5 months or 6 months, I'm actually traveling in different parts of the world. So I take care of my whereabouts. I don't tell anyone, like, for example, where I'm going to be, which city I'm going to be in. I don't tell people that. This is, some people say, oh, is that's just too much? No, but look at the bright side of it. I get these letters every day. I do feel good. Talk about meaning. I do feel good when people say that I've left Islam because of you. And not only just that, the second biggest group that I get of people who become atheists, which religious background they come from? Hindus. So after ex-Muslims, we're getting a lot of ex-Hindu letters as well. So that's great for me. That gives me a lot of joy that whether a kid in India or in Pakistan, I change their life to some extent, because the moment they come out of this religious nutbaggery, their worldview changes. Now I say, okay, now you need to study. You could be the next Isaac Newton. You could be the next Einstein or Stephen Hawking. Go out there and kill it. Who knows? So the sprinkling of seeding that we're doing today, I want to stay alive for next 30 years to see that those little, so someone from in 10 years time from today, he would say that, 10 years ago, I listened to how, again, I'm not smoking, blowing smoke up my backside, but this is something that keeps me going, talking about meaning, that 10 years from today, some kid is going to say, some kid from Mumbai or some kid from Karachi is going to say, 10 years ago, I used to hate Harris Sultan. I accidentally stumbled across his video, and then that triggered something in my mind, and then I became a scientist, and then he invented something, and imagine he ends up winning something. That would be something like, I would be like, yep, that is quite cool. So again, and this is what people do, like, we're here, we'll be gone. What does it matter? 100 years from now, every person who's alive right now most probably would be dead, unless there's a very good chance that science might discover immortality or significantly increase our lifespan. Good scientists are working on that. But forget about that. In 100,000 years' time, what's going to happen? Are we going to be living on a different planet? If we are living on a different planet, we would not look like this. We would, depending on the gravity of that planet, if it's like Mars-like planet, slightly smaller than Earth, not slightly, pretty much half the size of planet Earth, then we're going to be a lot thinner and taller because of low gravity. Or if it's going to be twice the size of Earth, we're going to be a lot shorter and stockier. We would not look like this. We would have different goals. We would have different religions by then. None of this would matter. So what difference does it make at the end? I don't want to sound very morbid, or I don't want to make people feel depressed, but that's it. There's nothing sad about that. It's okay. We're all going to die. It's okay. The world's going to go on. Think of every major person who ever lived. Julius Caesar, Genghis Khan, hell, Muhammad and Jesus, all of them, they're all dead. They don't know what's going on right now. Alexander the Great is long dead. He had his 30 years of fun. I think he died at 33 or something. Julius Caesar died at the age of 52 or something. They had their life, 52 years. Yes, it's cool that we're still talking about them, but it doesn't make any difference to them. They're dead. And just like that, you and I are going to die one day as well. It's okay. That's what I said. People get sad about that. They say, what's the purpose of that? I want an unlimited party in heaven where I'm having 72 virgins, or whichever version of heaven you actually accept. People say, that's what I want. No, it's okay if you don't get it. And like to show you, Muhammad is not having fun with any 72 virgins right now.
I also want to know the reaction of Hindu when you criticize Hinduism. It would be very, very funny.
It is very funny. I have a whole playlist on India and Hinduism. I'm blended them together. Like sometimes I talk about some political issues taking place in India, sometimes Hinduism itself. I tend not to talk a lot about Hinduism per se. I do talk about Hindutva. I do talk about the political ramifications of radical Hinduism. So I do talk a little bit about that, and I talk about their behavior. And then I get the same like Muslims. They come with all kinds of excuses. Nobody believes in that. That's not the true translation. Hinduism doesn't teach this. so they come up with similar. There are far more similarities between them than they like to accept. And I always say that and they even say that, you know, for example, the favorite excuse is, if you highlight a Muslim man who was beaten up by a mob of Hindu nationalists, they'll say, "Oh, so kuch kiya hoga. He must have been doing love jihad. He must have wolf whistled at a Hindu girl. He must have tried to convert someone." They always say that, and if it's a clear case, or the official reports are saying yes, it was a religiously inspired attack, or might have started over a cricket match or something, but then it happened, you know, cricket ho gayi. Now we're saying that, okay, you are a freaking Musliman, chalo teri aisi ki taisi, and then they will overpower and then say, oh, it was about cricket. Yes, it might have instigated by cricket, but there are fault lines that are lying there. So they make similar excuses that I think any sane person, because I don't have any allegiance to Hinduism, so that's why I don't care. I don't have to make these excuses. I get these Muslims who come and they would bend over backwards to somehow convince, or somehow try to convince the audience that this is what the Quran meant. Nobody knew, but this guy worked it out. That basically, when the Quran says that sperm forms between backbone and ribs, in a region between backbone and ribs, so we say, oh, sperms are formed here somewhere. No, it's not the sperm. Sperms form in the testes, but an enzyme that creates sperm, that starts from liver, and from liver it goes into testes, and so it's like, okay, you know what? Quran doesn't say about that. So you are asserting all of that, but they will do that, right? So just like that, Hindus do the same thing. What they do is that they try to defend, this meant that meant that. You don't understand. But what they would not do is giraban mein jhankna. They would not look at themselves in the mirror and say that what they're doing, they're behaving exactly the same way. And the other common mistake they make, they think that I have equated the two. I've always said that Muslims are more aggressive when it comes to blasphemy. Hindus are not as aggressive, but they're getting there. Hindus are getting there. Yes, it's pound for pound or per capita. You might not be there yet, but you're getting there. Am I not allowed to say that? Am I not allowed to see the trend? So they always say, oh, it's a reaction. Kab tak hum unki bardasht karenge. So, well, yeah, so you want to act like them? You want to become a Hindu jihadi as well? Go for it. But I would call you a Hindu jihadi then.
And there's also a lot of problem with the Indian left. They always criticize one side and leave the other. And the same problem exists with the Indian right too. They always defend one side and always attack the other side. Maybe they should all just be principled. They should all value human life.
You're so right. I think you're so right. I was trying to find this information on this Kishan guy who was killed, this Hindu guy who was killed over Muslim blasphemy, that I wasn't finding any good sources from the left-wing media outlets. I had to rely on Op India, but then I did confirm it actually did happen. But again, Op India would focus on Muslim brutality, and The Wire and all these other ones will focus overly on Hindu nationalist, Hindutva brutality, and then they would try to water down the Muslim brutality case. So yeah, there has to be a balance. Just where has that good old school just reporting gone to? Where has that gone? Just report on facts. Where has that gone? And I think, and we see this problem everywhere. We see this problem in the West as well, and that's why we can see CNN. That was one of the most watched cable news channel in the world. I think their rankings have dropped lower than Joe Rogan's podcast. This is how bad it has become. You know why? Because they are overly crazy, loony, leftist propaganda bullshit in there. And there is still, people are not experts. I've always said people are foolish to an extent, that because we are all foolish to some extent. I mean, if you started asking me about the fault lines between Ukraine and Russia, I might give you a surface level answer, but I don't know much about it. You ask me about Colombia problems with the United States or Brazil, I wouldn't know crap about that. So I would rely on some sort of a media outlet, and I would expect that if that media outlet is a respectable media outlet, it would do fair share of reporting. But they don't do that now. If there's a debate going on between, for example, in Poland, if Poland is a very conservative Christian country. So there's a problem going on between LGBTQ and feminists versus the conservative Polish people. So if I looked at CNN, it would be a different news story. If I looked at Fox News, it'll be a different. And then we have been creating these echo chambers where we're like, okay, I only follow Fox News, I only follow CNN, and then that's such a sad thing. And I think this is another reason why it has created another niche for people like us. That some people who regularly listen to me on both English or Urdu channel, they think that then they also put their faith in me. They say, oh, Harris is at least in the middle. He's doing genuine reporting, but then again, they're not happy with that either. They will say, oh, he doesn't know anything about Indian culture, or he doesn't know anything about India. Harris bhai, aap India ho, aapko pata chalega. Yeah, I will go to India and I'll go to UP and I'll take a cow and then I'll slaughter a cow and let's see what happens to me then. So I'm not saying that that's a good thing to do, because again, I am a very pacifist. I do believe in no suffering for animal. We need to minimize. But I also say that human life is above an animal's life. वो एक टीवी पे आपके चला था, he said, वो कहता गाय भी तो इंसान ही है.
मैं टीवी देखना बंद कर चुका हूँ. यहाँ का टीवी चैनल सब इतना कचरा हो गया है.
This was a long time ago, and this woman, I think she was a NDTV or something. She said, "आप गाय की बात नहीं, मैं इंसान की बात कर रही हूँ." कहता, "आए गाय भी तो इंसान ही है, बता." So these guys are so, and this COVID gave us a lot of comedy. There's some people, they were drinking cow urine and they were saying गाय के गोबर का लेप करने से कोरोना दूर हो जाता है, and kind of thing. So I digress, but if you make fun of that, they get angry. They say, "Ah, you don't know anything about it." So yeah.
Well, how do we make sense of all of that? क्योंकि यहाँ पे एक बिल्कुल एक लेफ्ट विंग है, यहाँ पे एक राइट विंग है, और हम यहाँ पे नॉर्मल लोग बैठे हुए हैं. How do we make sense of all this political and nonsense noise?
I think, I am a big believer on the state of equilibrium. I genuinely believe that things cannot stay the same forever. Things are always changing. If you look at history, anyone who thinks that, okay, this is it, we've found the best solution, is an idiot. And that's the problem with religions as well, especially to the absolutist religions like Islam. They say, we've given you the code. Well, go back to that code. The best you would see is the Taliban, and the worst you'll see is ISIS. This is it. That is the window that you can operate within within Muhammad's Islam. This is it. There's no other solution. So I see that even Congress is now, because Congress had been appeasing Muslims unfairly. I understand that you want to protect your minorities, which is fair enough. I mean, for example, I want to protect Pakistani Hindus. I always talk for their human rights, but never once have I said anything in favor of their religious beliefs. I can do the same thing. I think I can do the same together. Yes, I don't attack their religious belief as well, because I think it's just totally unnecessary, because they're only 4%. And I think when I attack Hinduism, it kind of covers their belief as well. Because again, I am saying that I'm an atheist, but I don't want anything to happen to my Pakistani Hindu community. So I am always speaking for them. And I tag these big accounts. I try to shame Bilal Bhutto because he's the head of that. He's the chief of Pakistan People's Party, which is in power in Sindh, where all these cases happen. Shiri Mazari, human rights minister, Imran Khan, etc. I just tag them, but I keep talking about it. I keep making a ruckus. I keep making noise about it. But I can do that without sucking up to the Hindu faith. So this is the reason why your Indian left can defend the rights of Muslim minorities, because they can be victimized. There's no doubt about that. Another 10 and I've said it before, I fear there's going to be a Muslim genocide in India. I fear that, something that is far worse than Gujarat. It's going to happen, because what we're seeing now, social media has enabled it. Yes, Bajrang Dal, Bal Thakre, these guys always existed, but now world hatred spreads like wildfire through social media. It spreads. How many Tunnis, how many these radical Hindutva people, some people live in the bubble. They're like, oh, Harris, they've always been there. It doesn't, things never stay the same. Things are always either expanding or contracting. They never stay the same. So Hindutva is rising. As a result, something's got to give way and something is going to happen. But I think, so same thing with political parties. I think I've seen that Congress has changed their tone a little bit. They're trying to win back some of the Hindu crowd because people who are in the middle, like, I mean, if you sound like a decent person, you can understand the difference between ideology and human rights. So you are also sick of the fact that why is this leftist liberal media giving undue concession to Muslim atrocities? Why can't you just say that, okay, you know what they did? They killed this Hindu kid. That was wrong. Why can't they say that, yes, this girl who committed suicide in this convent school, in Christian school, she was being forced to convert, or she said no, and then she was forced to clean the toilet, and as a result, she ended up committing suicide. Why don't they talk about that? Why don't they say, yes, this is a problem, we need to look into it? Then the people in the middle will not go to the right. They would not go to BJP. They would not go to RSS or Yogi Adityanath. They would stay in the middle. Maybe they will go to your side because there is a balanced approach. Because we have this aversion to violence. I think nobody wants to see violence. Again, Attorney would say, oh, Musliman to hamesha violence karna chahta hai. And Muslim will say, yeah, Hindu to hai aisa, muh mein ram naam bagal mein chura. But in reality, nobody wants to see violence. We have really softened our instincts that if we see an animal that is cut up, if we see a human that is injured, a lot of people faint when they see blood. So we don't want to see violence. So a sensible approach would be somewhere in the middle. Call it out wherever it is without, and again, you have to be true to your own philosophy rather than, any group of people.
What is the future of atheist movement in India? क्योंकि यहाँ पे अब polarization बहुत ज़्यादा ही बढ़ते जा रहा है और हर जगह बढ़ते जा रहा है. अमेरिका में भी ये बढ़ रहा है, पाकिस्तान में तो बहुत ज़्यादा पहले से ही बढ़ा हुआ है. So future क्या है यहाँ पे atheism का?
I think future of atheism is very bright. I think majority of people, whether they're Indians, Hindus, this is another last ditch effort by these Hindu people. हमारे धर्म में तो नास्तिक होता है, Hinduism में atheist allow है ऐसे, लेकिन atheism में Hinduism allow नहीं है. So the Hindu नास्तिक, Hindu atheist, there's no such thing. When you scratch the surface, all these Hindu atheists, when you scratch the surface, you find out, astrology to hoti hai. They believe in astrology. There would always be something that they would believe in. So I'm like, that's the reason why you insist on calling yourself a Hindu. If you're an atheist, you don't have to call. And again, I'm not saying use the term atheist like, hey, look at us, this is our identity. No, I'm saying it makes a statement. When everyone is an atheist, we will not use the term that we're an atheist. Just like nobody says that I am a non-jinn believing person, or I'm a non-horoscopian. Nobody says that because majority of the world's population doesn't believe in horoscopes, or maybe even if they do believe, they have their own local ones. So, or I'm a non-homeopathy person. Actually in India they do this. You know why they do it? Because a lot of people believe in Ayurveda. Yeah, so they say no, allopathy. In any other world, nobody talks about allopathy. Nobody uses that term. You know why? Because that is the only medicine that we have. That's the only we have. Yes, they have these Ayurveda centers popping up, the traditional Chinese, but there again, I hope that they get banned to some extent. But no, that's fine. People should be able to do the massages and all of those things. I don't totally dismiss them. But what I say is that if you've got cancer or blood pressure or something, and you say, Ayurveda mein hamare paas hai tarika, ye hajmula khaye. Hajmula is good for, agar thodi gas ho gayi hai, but not anything more than that. So I think future of atheism looks very bright because these days there's no excuse to stay ignorant. If you think that, Mahurat is important, the position of Mars and, whatever this Bhavishyavani, and how do you say that in English? This fortune telling, etc. If you believe in that, you can just do these little thought experiments because there will always be hundreds of Harris Sultans out there. There are, and the numbers are growing of these atheists. influences. Unfortunately, just like everything else, we're a bit late on this. I mean, this movement started in the West in 2005 and 6. We started this in 2017, 18 in India and Pakistan. Now there's 30 plus channels that are talking about, they're talking against Islam per se, but you will see a lot more atheists from India. You will see a lot more atheists from Pakistan producing content in Urdu and Hindi, and that's going to change a lot of people. Don't worry, you stick to it. You're going to have a lot of followers and you're going to change a lot of people's minds.
मेरे पास एक और क्वेश्चन था कि जैसे मुस्लिम्स का एक पर्टिकुलर बिहेवियर रहता है और एक हिंदूज का एक कलेक्टिव बिहेवियर रहता है, जब भी उनके रिलीजन पे कोई अटैक करता है या फिर उनका मजाक उड़ाता है या फिर नॉर्मली काउंटर करता है, सो हम वहाँ पे कैसे नेविगेट करें और कैसे अपने पॉइंट्स को ऐसे रखें कि यहाँ पे मुझे ज़्यादा कोई प्रॉब्लम भी ना हो?
No, you can't do anything without problem. There's always something. You have to take a bit of a risk. आपको हमेशा अगर कुछ है तो आपको उसकी कोई ना कोई कीमत तो देनी पड़ेगी. You know, freedom doesn't come absent sacrifice. आजादी बगैर कुर्बानी के नहीं आती. आप अगर किसी कॉज के लिए लड़ रहे हैं तो ऐसे नहीं होगा कि आपको कोई रिस्क ना हो. आप वजीर आजम भी बन जाएं, आप प्राइम मिनिस्टर भी बन जाएं, आपके 1 लाख फॉलोअर्स भी हो जाएं, तो लेकिन आपसे कोई नफरत ना करे, ऐसे हो नहीं सकता. यू विल हैव टू वॉक ऑन दीज eggshells. यू विल हैव टू आपको पंगे लेने पड़ेंगे थोड़े से, और वो पंगे जो है यू विल हैव टू मेक. वो एक एनाटोले फ्रांस का कोल है, ये पता नहीं चर्चिल ने कहा था. एनीवे, इट डजंट मैटर किसने कहा था. व्हाट मैटर्स इज उसने कहा, ओ तुम्हारा कोई दुश्मन नहीं है, चलो अच्छा है, इसका मतलब तुमने जिंदगी में कोई बड़ा काम नहीं किया. और स्टीव जॉब्स से ये कॉल लगाया जाता है. वो कहता है कि अगर तुमने लोगों को खुश करना तो जाके आइसक्रीम बेचो, अगर तुमने दुनिया को बदलना है तो हमारी कंपनी में आ जाओ. हालांकि इट्स बिट मिसप्लेस, कुछ इतना भी कुछ नहीं है, लेकिन एनीवे, बट दैट्स फाइन. लेकिन दैट्स अ गुड पॉइंट. अगर आपने लोगों को खुश करना, तो अब तो खैर लोगों को तो आप कभी भी खुश नहीं कर सकते. यू कैन नेवर मेक एवरीवन हैप्पी. यू नो, कोई जोक मारोगे कि कभी किसी को तकलीफ हो जाएगी, वो तालियां मारेगा, उसको गुस्सा चढ़ जाएगा. आप नेता बनेंगे तो आपकी जो दूसरी साइड के लोग हैं वो आपको गालियां देंगे, आपको बोला, तो यू कैन नेवर मेक एवरीवन हैप्पी. इसीलिए दुनिया का असूल ये, यू डू योर थिंग, जो व्हाट यू बिलीव इन, यू डू योर थिंग. अब आपने पर्सनालिटी अपनी लानी. अगर आपकी पर्सनालिटी थोड़ी एग्रेसिव है या थोड़ी ज्यादा शुगली है, लाइक आप कहें कि हजरत मोहम्मद उड़न खोते के ऊपर कैसे चले गए, इफ यू वांट टू से दोस थिंग्स, इफ दैट्स योर स्टाइल, देन यू कैन से इट. But if you don't, if that's not your style, don't force that on you. Just जैसे आप कह सकते, you will discover a lot of things. Like जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, जब मैंने शुरू किया था, I was overly serious. अकड़ के बैठ गया, भाई you're not a prime minister. Just say it. लगाओ शुगर, लगाओ इनके, बजाओ इनकी बैंड.
बिल्कुल जैसे मैं अभी अकड़ के बैठा हुआ हूँ.
No, but that's okay. You're a young guy. You'll find your niche. You will learn. आप बैठोगे, आपको समझ आएंगी और बातें, and you will go with that.
What are your thoughts on Hindu atheist? और मैं खुद को भी हिंदू एथिस्ट बोलता हूँ, बट आपका क्या क्रिटिसिज्म है हिंदू एथिस्ट का? लाइक
मैं कहता हूँ कि
चारवाक पॉडकास्ट
मिस नॉर्मल है ये. I understand के आर्गुमेंट्स क्या हैं, लेकिन I think you don't need that term, especially अगर वो टर्म जो है एक बैगेज के साथ आती है. और जब किसी ट्रेडिशनल हिंदू को हम सुनते हैं, क्या होता है हिंदू, तिलक लगाता होगा, जाता होगा उसमें, मंदिर जाता होगा. दैट्स अ टिपिकल पूजा पाठरी वाले. मेजॉरिटी ऑफ हिंदूज आर पूजा पाठ हिंदूज. या सो अगर हम ये कहें कि मैं एक मुस्लिम एथियस्ट हूं, क्योंकि मुतज़िलाइट्स जो थे उनकी बड़ी रिच रैशनलिस्ट सोच थी वगैरह वगैरह. सो मैं तो फिर मुझसे पूछोगे आप, लेकिन आप क्यों, मैं रीडिफाइन कर दूं ना इस्लाम को. चारवाका जो स्कूल ऑफ थॉट है वो भी एक रीडेफिनेशन ही थी ना. दैट वाज अगेंस्ट द ट्रेडिशनल वर्ल्ड व्यू ऑफ वेदास. या चारवाका उसके अगेंस्ट ही लिखी गई थी ना. अब इन्होंने कहा ये भी हिंदुइज्म का हिस्सा है. अब फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर एक्स मुस्लिम मूवमेंट है, क्या हम ये कह सकते हैं ये भी इस्लाम का हिस्सा है? आज से 500 साल बाद लोग कहेंगे मैं एक्स मुस्लिम वाले फिरके से हूं तो मैं भी मुस्लिम ही हूं, मैं मुस्लिम एथियस्ट हूं. These things don't matter. मेरा पॉइंट ये है कि why do you insist? अब हम एथियस्ट अपने आप को अगर कहते हैं, उसकी वजह है, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, उसकी वजह यह है कि दुनिया में मेजॉरिटी लोग रिलीजियस हैं। अगर वो रिलीजियस ना होंगे तो कोई नहीं कहेगा अपने आप को एथियस्ट। हम अपने आप को एक्स मुस्लिम इसलिए कहते हैं क्योंकि हम मुसलमानों को बताते हैं कि इस्लाम लोग छोड़ते हैं, पीपल कैन बिकम एक्स मुस्लिम। जो मुसलमान होता है वो इस्लाम छोड़ भी सकता है, इसलिए हम उसकी प्रैक्टिकलिटी एक वजह है। आपके हिंदू एथियस्ट कहने की क्या वजह? आई वॉन्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस, मुझे नहीं पता इसकी क्या वजह। क्या आपको, कई लोग कहते हैं कि हम एक कल्चर है, तो भाई मैं भी ईद के पकोड़े खा लेता हूँ, मुझे तो कोई, मैं रमजान में जाकर पकोड़े खा लेता हूँ, ईद में अगर मुझे किसी को घर जाकर जफरी डालनी है 3 दफा ऐसे ऐसे वो जो करते हैं वो भी मैं कर लेता हूँ। इससे कोई, मैं मुसलमान तो नहीं हो जाऊंगा, और इससे मुझे इस टाइटल लगाने की जरूरत तो नहीं है। कई लोग तो कहते हैं हम कल्चरली ही मुस्लिम है, उसकी भी कोई जरूरत नहीं है। व्हाट इज द नीड फॉर इट? उसका बेनिफिट क्या है और इसके नुकसान क्या है? आप कहेंगे चलो कोई बेनिफिट नहीं है, लेकिन मैं आपको नुकसान बताता हूं क्या है। इसका नुकसान क्या है? पहली बात यह है कि आप एक डाइंग इंस्टीट्यूट को प्रोलॉन्ग कर रहे हैं, जैसे रिफॉर्म इस्लामिक मूवमेंट है, ये एक डाइंग कैंसर है जिसको हम रिफॉर्म कर रहे हैं। सेकंड, उसको एक लाइफ लाइन दे रहे हैं। सेकंड चीज, ये आपको एक सुपीरियोरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स देती है जो आपको डिफरेंशिएट करती है और से। अगर आप और मैं अपने आप को दोनों एथियस्ट कहेंगे ना, तो आप और मुझ में कोई फर्क नहीं रहा, हम दोनों रैशनलिस्ट हैं, जिस हमारा वर्ल्ड व्यू है कि हम इस एविडेंस को नहीं मानते। अब मैं चाहे मैं बेशक एक्स मुस्लिम पार्ट से आया हूं, और यही वजह है कि हमारे जो बहुत सारे एक्स मुस्लिम एथियस्ट हैं वो वेस्टर्न एथियस्ट से कनेक्ट इसलिए कर पाते हैं कि वो होते तो वो एक्स क्रिश्चियन एथियस्ट हैं, लेकिन अब तो एथियस्ट हैं। हम अब तो सेक्युलर वैल्यूज को प्रमोट कर रहे हैं, अब तो वो रिलीजन का रोल नहीं रखना चाहते। तो जब आप, ये एक पूरा थॉट वर्ल्ड व्यू है, अगर आप हिंदू एथियस्ट कहते हैं तो आप उन लोगों को गुंजाइश दे रहे हैं टू कीप इट गोइंग, और वो फिर आपकी पॉलिटिक्स में इन्वॉल्व हो सकते हैं। जब आप हिंदू एथियस्ट कहते हैं तो मुसलमान जो है या जो अदर लोग हैं, आपने ऑलरेडी अपने बीच में एक दीवार खड़ी कर दी। आपने कहा कि मैं हिंदू एथियस्ट हूं, मैं एथियस्ट हूं, लेकिन मैं हिंदू साइड से आया हूं, मैंने उसी साइड पे रहना। व्हाई? मुझे इसकी प्रैक्टिकलिटी नहीं आज तक समझ आई। आज तक मुझे, आई हैव स्पोकन विद कुशाल एज वेल, मुझे कभी इसकी समझ नहीं आया। इवन दो ही इज अ हार्डकोर एथियस्ट, वो 100% एथियस्ट मेरी तरह का है। यानी वो कोई पूजा पाठ, किसी जन्म पूर्णिमा पे और किसी ये एस्ट्रोलॉजी वगैरह किसी पे यकीन नहीं रखता। ही इज एज हार्डकोर एथियस्ट एज वन कैन बी, लेकिन वो कहता है मैंने हिंदू एथियस्ट अपना को। आई डोंट गेट इट।
एंड व्हाट आर योर थॉट्स ऑन द गोल्डन एज सिंड्रोम? क्योंकि बहुत सारे हिंदूज में भी है कि एक टाइम था जब सब कुछ बहुत अच्छा था, जब कास्ट सिस्टम ऑप्रेसिव नहीं था।
ये हर एक में है। ये हर एक में है, मुसलमानों में भी ये गोल्डन एज सिंड्रोम। ओ गोल्डन एज ऑफ इस्लाम हमें स्कूलों में पढ़ाया जाता। आपके इंडिया में ये मूवमेंट रिवाइव हो रही है, जिसको मैं कहता हूँ एंसेस्टर का ऑब्सेशन जो है इन्हें, हमारे एंसेस्टर्स ने ये किया था। ओ भाई, आपके एंसेस्टर्स ने एमआरआई मशीन, विमान, सारी चीजें, वो जी बिल्डिंगें ऐसी, ये देखें ये बिल्डिंग ये कैसे बन गई, वो कैलकुलेशनें की हुई उन्होंने। वो जी अगर रोज 12 घंटे काम किया जाता था, नहीं 24 घंटे भी रोज काम होता था, तो ये 12 सालों में कैसे बन गई, वगैरह वगैरह, लाइक तरह तरह की बोंगियां मारेंगे। सो गोल्डन एज सिंड्रोम जो है, दिस इज अगेन अननेसेसरी। इसकी क्या जरूरत है? दैट्स व्हाई आई से कि हिंदू एथियस्ट लेबल इज डेंजरस, बिकॉज यू आर ऑल कलेक्टिंग अंडर वन बैनर। आप वो नहीं है, यू डोंट बिलोंग टू दोस पीपल। वो लोग जो वो डॉगमेटिक हैं, वो ये पूजा पाठ, एस्ट्रोलॉजी, गोल्डन एज, हमारे एंसेस्टर्स ने ये किया, दे आर डिफरेंट फ्रॉम यू। इफ यू आर अ रैशनलिस्ट, यू हैव नथिंग इन कॉमन। सिर्फ आपको होली पसंद है, आपको दिवाली पसंद है, या आपको अपनी माँ से प्यार है, जो आपको एक कलर पसंद है, वो हमें भी बॉलीवुड की मूवियां पसंद है, वो मुझे भी टेंपल पसंद है, घंटी मारना, अमिताभ बच्चन कहता है भगवान मेरी माँ को बचा ले, हमें भी वो पसंद है। बट दैट डजंट मीन कि मुझे अपने आप के साथ एक हिंदू टाइटल, एक अननेसेसरी टाइटल लगाने की जरूरत। वी डोंट नीड दैट। सो so the golden age is again another bullshit.
या एंड मैं आपसे ये भी जानना चाहता हूँ कि आपने ये बुक लिखा द कर्स ऑफ गॉड, व्हाई आई लेफ्ट इस्लाम, आपने ये टाइटल पर्टिकुलरली क्यों चूज किया?
क्योंकि एक तो पन है ना, एक तो मुसलमानों को लानत देने का बड़ा शौक है। तो मैंने कहा कि खुदा एक लानत है, जो कि इट कैन बी ट्विस्टेड इन द अदर सेंस कि खुदा एक लानत भेज रहा है हम पे। यानी जैसे वो कर्स ऑफ ब्लैक पर्ल मूवी नहीं है, तो इसका पन था, क्लेवर था, तो आई लाइक दिस। मुझे लगा कि शायद इट मेक्स अच्छा है। तो जब उर्दू में किया ना इसका ट्रांसलेशन, तो मैंने कहा यार खुदा की लानत, दैट्स कुछ ज्यादा ही हो गया था। मैंने भी उसका टाइटल खुदा की मुसीबत कर दिया। आई डोंट नो हिंदी में उन्होंने क्या इसका ट्रांसलेशन किया है, if you've seen that or not. तो ये that was अब इसी तरह आई थिंक बुक टाइटल्स ऐसे ही होते हैं. अब जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल जो मैंने अभी कहा कि मैं अगली बुक जो मैं लिखना चाह रहा हूँ, मैं ज्यादा बड़ी बुक नहीं, उसमें मैं यही लिखना चाह रहा हूँ कि you know atheism for idiots basically, क्योंकि लोग ऐसे ऐसे सवाल पूछते हैं, तो क्योंकि हाँ भाई अच्छा जी मैं इडियट हूँ, चलो जी मुझे पढ़ाओ. बट आई डोंट थिंक इट्स अ गुड आइडिया टू राइट दैट, क्योंकि फिर को जो लोग कहेंगे मैं इडियट नहीं हूँ इसलिए मैंने बुक नहीं पढ़नी है. सो yeah, I don't know, it just sounded like a good name at that time.
एथिज्म फॉर डमी काफी अच्छा रहेगा, क्योंकि बहुत सारे
लेकिन इस तरह के बहुत सारी
प्रोग्रामिंग की
लिखी
बुक्स
गई है
हैं.
ना, इस
हाँ
तरह की लिखी गई है ना बहुत सारी पहले. ये
हाँ.
टाइटल आई थिंक ऑफ समथिंग, आई डोंट नो.
चलिए फिर आज के लिए इतना था. दैट्स इट फॉर दिस एपिसोड. और आपकी बुक मेरे रीडिंग लिस्ट में है. मैं जब उसको खत्म कर लूंगा तो फिर आपको एक बार फिर से बुलाऊंगा.
श्योर, थैंक यू.
थैंक यू हारिस भाई, थैंक यू फॉर डूइंग दिस. आपका जब मैंने नाम पहली बार पढ़ा था मुझे लगा था हैरिस है, फिर मैंने आपका पॉडकास्ट देखा कुशाल के साथ, तो फिर मुझे पता चला अच्छा ये हारिस है.
हाँ, वो हारिस भी है, वो हैरिस भी इंग्लिश में बन जाता है, और कभी कभार मैं दोनों इस्तेमाल कर लेता हूँ, क्योंकि जब मुसलमान कहता ना वो ये तो मुसलमानों वाला नाम है, तो मैं उनको कहता नहीं ये मुसलमानों वाला नाम भी नहीं है, क्योंकि हैरिस तो फिर उसकी ग्रीक रूट्स भी हैं, उसकी ब्रिटिश रूट्स भी हैं. हालांकि इस वजह से नहीं, मेरा नाम इसीलिए रखा गया था, लेकिन वो मेरा करना क्या हुआ कि दैट कैन हैव ए वेस्टर्न नेम एज वेल. सो आई जस्ट से कि मुझे तुम्हारी कोई जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि मुसलमानों के ऐसे बच्चों वाली हरकतें होती हैं, अपना नाम क्यों नहीं बदलते, जैसे हजरत मोहम्मद ने, अबू बकर ने, उमर ने बदल लिया था इस्लाम, वो तो इस्लाम से पहले के काफरों के नाम थे. सो ऐसे गप्पे मारते रहते हैं. बट या माय नेम इज हारिस भी है और हैरिस भी है.
ऑलराइट, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर डूइंग दिस. आपने मेरा इनविटेशन एक्सेप्ट कर लिया. मुझे तो पहले आश्चर्य बहुत ज्यादा हुआ था, क्योंकि मैं बहुत अभी छोटा क्रिएटर हूँ.
कोई
तो
ऐसी
थैंक यू.
बात नहीं यार, नहीं बिल्कुल कोई कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. आप हम हमेशा उन लोगों को सपोर्ट करना चाहते हैं जो यंग लड़के लड़कियां या जो लोग आते हैं, जो रैशनैलिटी के ऊपर बात करना चाहते हैं. मैंने आपकी थोड़ी सी वीडियो देखी थी और मुझे अंदाजा हो गया था कि आपका क्या फ्रेम ऑफ माइंड है. अगर मुझे पता होता कि आपका एक टुन्नी फ्रेम ऑफ माइंड है तो देन आई वुड हैव सेड नो. और बल्कि अभी एक है यूट्यूबर हैं, काफी बड़ी यूट्यूबर है वो, और वो मुझे अक्सर मैसेजेस भेजती रहती हैं, और उन्होंने अभी पहले मैंने उनको कह दिया था कि ये मेरे व्यूज हैं, मैं हिंदुइज्म के ऊपर क्रिटिसाइज करूंगा. तो उन्होंने कहा अच्छा चलें, फिर आपको शायद मैं पसंद ना आऊं. मैंने कहा ओके व्हाटएवर. तो उन्होंने बाद में फिर अभी मुझे ऑफर मारी कि मैं आपको लेना चाहती हूँ. तो मैंने कहा ठीक है, लेकिन मैं छोड़ूंगा नहीं किसी को. सो या इट ऑलवेज अ प्लेजर. आपको जितने भी, जैसे मैंने कहा ना, यंग लोग हों, हमें उससे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. वी ऑलवेज देयर फॉर रैशनैलिटी.
और किसी भी बात पे एग्री करना जरूरी भी तो नहीं है.
एब्सोल्युटली, एब्सोल्युटली किसी बात पे एग्री करना जरूरी नहीं है. और ये तो वही चीज है ना कि आप कभी कभार ऐसे होता है कि दुनिया में कुछ लोग, और ये हमेशा दुनिया में होता है, कि कुछ लोगों का एक्सपीरियंस ज्यादा होता है किसी सर्टेन टॉपिक के ऊपर, वो एक्सपीरियंस भी होता है. तो अभी फॉर एग्जांपल, अब अगर किसी ने कोई आइडिया नहीं एथिज्म के बारे में सुना, वो पॉडकास्ट की पहली दफा देखेगा, स्ट्रीम देखेगा, और वो कहेगा, उसके अपना एक वर्ल्ड व्यू है, जो उस वर्ल्ड, ये मेरी जो हमने भी बातें की, उस वर्ल्ड व्यू को अटैक कर रही हैं. तो वो उसको गुस्सा आएगा, लेकिन उसमें उसके पास लिटरली कोई काउंटर पॉइंट नहीं होगा. वो डिसएग्री ही करेगा और उसके पास कोई काउंटर पॉइंट नहीं होगा. यस, देयर आर अदर पीपल हु आर, जो इन आर्गुमेंट्स को समझते हैं और उन्होंने इसके काउंटर आर्गुमेंट्स अच्छे बनाए हुए, जो कैन दे कैन हैव अ वेरी लॉन्ग एंड विगरस डिबेट विद अस, विद मी, और वो उन्हें लगेगा दे हैव डन वेल. एंड तो ऑन दैट बेसिस अगर वो डिसएग्री करते हैं, इट्स ओके. लेकिन जिसने कभी सुना नहीं है और उसने जब सुना है, उसको गुस्सा आ रहा है वगैरह वगैरह, बट देन अगर आप डिसएग्री करते हैं बट यू कैन नॉट डिफेंड योर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, देन आई थिंक दैट डिसएग्रीमेंट इज यूजलेस. then it's stubbornness, it's not disagreement, then it's stubbornness. और लेकिन अगर आप काउंटर किया है, हम फंस गए, डेडलॉक में आ गए, then that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. अगर डिसएग्रीमेंट है, ठीक है, हम हर चीज की क्लैरिटी से हम हर चीज को आर्टिकुलेट भी नहीं कर सकते. there's so many things जिसका हम क्लैरिटी के साथ आंसर नहीं दे सकते.
वेल दैट्स इट. मैं अब रिकॉर्डिंग बंद कर रहा हूँ. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर डूइंग दिस.